Hope that gets worked out. Last month, Samuel talked to us about his book, Umpire Diary. Talked about his time as an umpire during 2021, right, Daniel? And he'll talk to us again sometime next year. Hopefully he comes into town. So when you talk about maybe the 71 Astros or something like that. That about right?
Yeah, that sounds great if it all works out.
Okay, good. A little bit of bad news. I mean, I'm sure we're all baseball fans aware we're here, but we keep losing legends over and over. I mean, what, a day after the meeting last month, Fernando passed away. So Fernando is a member of that team that we don't mention, but Fernando was one of those good guys, right? He really was. So rest in peace, Fernando. What do we think about Daikin Field or Daikin Park? Remember last month I said there were rumblings that Maid Park may change its name. And this morning we found out, yes, indeed, no more Maid Park as of January 1st, 2025. It'll be Daikin Park. Anybody watch the press conference on one of the news stations?
Beginning of it.
Right?
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
Kind of boring. Well, you know.
I watched the first few minutes of it. Oh, I watched Park. That's girl.
It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. Nobody, anything to say about it? Well, why Daikin Park? Well, if you didn't know, the tie-in with the Astros is based on a 4.2 million square foot campus for the largest HVAC manufacturing facility in North America is out there at Waller, Texas. Okay, Daikin is the world's largest air conditioning manufacturer. I think that's what I read.
They have a warehouse out west on the
in Waller.
Right, Kate Freeway though, out west.
I don't know. I just know I saw Waller.
That's Waller County.
The headquarters of Daikin's in Osaka, Japan. So I don't know if this means we're gonna go after you, say a little bit harder. I don't know. That'd be nice. But anyway, so that's the news of the day as far as the Astros go. Real quick, the annual Bill Gilbert winter meeting will be Saturday, January the 4th, from 9:30 to 4 p.m. out at Texas State in San Marcos. Usually members of our chapter go every year. So I'm looking forward to going out there next on January 4th. If you want to go spend a great day with the members of the Bill Gilbert chapter, the Roger Hornsby chapter, I'm sorry, and listen to a lot of good presentations, I'll be out there. So come out there and join me. It's a great day, and it's usually a great event. So next month, our meeting will be December the 16th. Chapter member Jimmy Scruggs will be our guest speaker. He will talk to us about his time in Cooperstown, New York, umpiring. Right, Jimmy?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll share some pictures, share some stories. Be kind of a light December meeting. I also have.
I'm going to be serious.
Oh, you're going to be serious. Jimmy will be serious. All right.
There's no calls to New York to question my calls.
No calls to your question. Okay. All right. We might, unless it's December, we might have some extra things. You know, it is the holiday time. Might have a little bit of celebration or something like that for the end of the year. It really was closing out this year. It was a great year for the chapter. You know, we have a lot of good things coming on. I can't wait till 2025. We have some guests that I think are coming our way. I don't want to jinx anything, but a couple of big name guests that I have reached out to, or that members of this chapter have reached out to, and I'm looking forward to seeing if they're going to come talk to us or not. So stay tuned. All right, I'll let you know. So I'm going to make it real quick tonight. Usually I speak a little bit more, but I want to give David all the time in the world. David has joined us before. David has talked to us back in July 2022 when he talked about 1962 baseball in America in the time of JFK. He gave us a little Houston connection. But tonight he's gonna talk about 1966. So, David, are you ready?
I am.
So without further ado, David Creel, it is all you, sir.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for the privilege of addressing the Houston chapter. I want to thank Laura and her sister Beth off the bat. I'm going to be talking about Mo Drabowski a little bit. Max has the cover of the book there, so I don't have to have it. And Laura has it too. So the through line for this book is groundbreaking. You can use your own adjective. You can say innovative, progress, what have you, in baseball and the culture. I will split my presentation into 3 parts. I'll talk about what was going on in the culture in 1966. Then I'll talk about baseball and then the World Series with Mo Drabowski. It begins with Batman. This was a revolutionary show for several reasons. Number one, remember that all shows were not in color in 1966. So this really helped propel the sales of color TV sets. Batman premieres in mid-January of 66. And let's just recap what was going on in TV as far as black and white versus television. Dick Van Dyke Show, black and white, all 5 years, 61 to 66. The Munsters, 64 to 66, black and white. The Addams Family, same time span. The Andy Griffith Show, black and white, first 5 seasons, 60 to 65. I Dream of Jeannie, the first season, 65 to 66, black and white. F Troop, same time span. Gilligan's Island. We did not see the black and white episodes in syndication. They weren't part of the package. We only saw the color episodes. But from 64 to 65, there were black and white episodes. So Batman is revolutionary, and you'll remember the bumper titles where it said Batman in color. It's a comic book on screen. William Dozier is the producer. You really had an artistic viewpoint on television, which you didn't have before. You had tilted angles. Of course, the portrayals of the villains and villainesses were over the top, but you had to have great actors to pull that off. So just as a summary, to show you the caliber of acting that was in that show, David Wayne played the Mad Hatter. He had won 2 Tony Awards. Julie Newmar was a Tony Award winner. She played Catwoman. Art Carney had 3 Emmys. He played the Archer. Shelley Winters, 2-time Oscar winner. Then you had character actors like Burgess Meredith playing the Penguin, Cesar Romero with the Joker, Joan Collins with Siren, and the list goes on and on. Batman skyrocketed to success. You had what always happens in Hollywood. Laura's an actress, she could tell you. You have imitators. Producers and networks and studios want to follow the success. They want to follow the trend. So you had CBS looking at Batman on ABC saying, we got to cash in on this. Their entire Saturday morning lineup was superhero based. They called it Super Saturday. You had live action shows like, I think there was one called Captain Nice and Mr. Terrific. The Green Hornet was on ABC in the fall of 66, not camp, not satire like Batman, but a straightforward detective show. The Green Hornet was a radio show, and just as a point of trivia, the character is the grandnephew of the Lone Ranger. Batman, of course, fades by 68. It's done. The other pop culture icon that year was the spy genre. Huge in 66, huge throughout the 60s. James Bond has 4 movies, 62, 63, 64, and 65. Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, and Thunderball. Well, again, studios and networks want to cash in. If James Bond is so popular, we need our own version. The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I Spy, the Matt Helma movies. On Saturday mornings, you had a character, Cool McCool. Tom of THUMB, Tom of Thumb, which was in the King Kong show. Secret Squirrel. Even Archie Comics had the Man from Riverdale. And Our Man Flint, which was a movie, not a show, was a movie with James Coburn, and there was a sequel in 67. So in addition to the spy genre breaking ground and Batman, of course, you had literature. I talk about 2 bestsellers in the book. One is The Source, which is an epic history uh, of Judaism and Israel with fictional characters, and it's set around an archaeological dig. This book by James Michener takes place from prehistoric times up until the mid 60s. And every time they find an artifact in this archaeological dig, there's a chapter about it and the era in which it is created or first appears. Valley of the Dolls. Now, Valley of the Dolls, I thought referred to women in Hollywood. I was wrong. Dolls refers to pills. This was revolutionary. James Michener wrote the source. Jacqueline Suzanne wrote Valley of the Dolls. She traveled in show business circles. So she knew the reality. She knew the underbelly of show business. You had only seen topics like the ones she talked about in pulp novels, not in something for a mass readership. She talks about drug abuse. She talks about sex. She talks about the business side of Hollywood and how vicious it is. It is completely relevant, as relevant today as it was 60 years ago. I read this, I was rooting for the characters. I was rooting for Anne, especially. If you pick up this book, it's hard to imagine what it was like in 1966. I mean, it was riveting based on my research, absolutely riveting. It's riveting to me in the 2020s, but couple that with what was going on in the culture, and you had never seen topics like this with three-dimensional characters. You just had never seen that before in a bestseller. So again, progress. It opened the door for other authors to tackle similar subjects. Now let's talk about baseball. Well, one of the most impactful changes in the game, I think we can all agree, was Marvin Miller becoming involved with the union. He was not universally accepted at first. You had veteran players who looked at him unkindly because they thought, if this guy goes and complains to the owners, then I'll be fired. Because the owner will think I'm ungrateful and I have a good job and I have a good relationship. Well, Marvin Miller had to really persuade the players that he wasn't speaking in place of them. He was speaking for them, and he was going to take his direction from them. He had to tell them, I'm here to lay out your options. I'm here to lay out the facts, the research. I'm here to forecast. You have to make the decision on what you want, and I will be your mouthpiece. But in addition to money, what he also was very concerned about was the quality of life. If you have players on a team traveling and they go on a road trip for 11 days and play 9 games, when they come back, do they play that night? Things like that were extraordinarily important to Mr. Miller. We know what happened with Mr. McNally and Mr. Messersmith later on in the 70s, and then Catfish Hunter with free agency, Reggie Jackson. As TV money increased, so did the players' salaries, so did the leverage. We had that god-awful strike in 1994, and the salaries that they get are astronomical. That's all a result of Marvin Miller getting that job in the mid-60s. As I say, he was not universally accepted, but over time, the players really came to revere him. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that he actually got inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. A lot of people, maybe some in this Zoom meeting, may have thought he belonged there long, long before. I know that had been talked about at SABR conferences and the Cooperstown Symposium. But again, he told players he's a spokesman. He's not there to speak in place of them. The other major thing that happened in 1966 was the Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale salary holdout. This was separate from Miller, had nothing to do with Miller whatsoever. The holdout begins in late February. Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale join forces, and they say, we're not going to spring training. We want more money. We deserve more money. Now, this has Dodgers fans legitimately worried. Remember, the Dodgers had moved from Brooklyn in 1958. They win the World Series in 1959. They lose the playoff to the Giants in 1962. The Giants then go play the Yankees in the World Series and lose to the Yankees in 7 games. The next year, in 63, the Dodgers sweep the Yankees. They win the World Series in 7 games against the Twins in 65. And Koufax not being with the Dodgers is like a hot fudge sundae without the hot fudge. Koufax leads the major leagues in victories. Get this, leads the major leagues in victories in 1963 and 65, leads the major leagues in win-loss percentage in 64 and 65, leads the NL in ERA every year from 62 to 65, leads the majors in 63 and 65, leads the majors in strikeouts in 61, 63, and 65. So losing him would be a terrific blow, not only for the Dodgers, but also for the GMs and the owners across the National League, because Koufax and Drysdale on the mound in your ballpark means more fans. So if you're in the Houston front office, New York, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and so on, this is a legitimate concern. However, it's a delicate balance because you don't want your star players getting ideas about holding out. So it's a very delicate balance. Buzzy Bavasi, the GM, of course, is concerned about precedent. What happens when your starting outfield walks? What happens when your double play combination walks? So he has a delicate balance as well. The holdout goes on for several weeks until the end of March. And it ends because of the intervention of one Chuck Connors, the actor and former ball player. We know him as an actor from The Rifleman. He later starred in a show called Branded. And Chuck Connors obviously had a pipeline either to the players, the front office, or both. He had played in the Cubs organization and the Dodgers organization. And we know he was involved not only from the newspaper articles at the time, but also the photo that I have in the book. At the press conference, Connors is in that photo, but he's not in the front row. He's not off to the side. He's right there at the table with Bavasi, Koufax, and Drysdale. So he played an absolutely vital role in bringing these parties together. Koufax and Drysdale had threatened to leave baseball and go work in the movies. Now, whether that actually would have happened, we don't know. The LA Herald Examiner reported that Koufax got $132,500 as a salary. Drysdale got $105,000. By a way of comparison, Warren Spahn had reached $85,000 with the Braves. In 66, Koufax has an outstanding year. He leads the majors with 27 wins, 1.73 ERA, 41 games started, 27 complete games, 5 shutouts, 323 innings pitched. And he retires in November. I believe he retired on this date in 1966. Drysdale, of course, stays for a couple of more seasons. He retires in mid-1969, later goes on to be a broadcaster for Generation Xers and Baby Boomers. We remember him fondly from his appearance on the Brady Bunch, where he teaches Greg Brady his secret slider. Now let's talk about the World Series. And I'm delighted Laura is here. The Orioles sweep the Dodgers. The Dodgers had clinched, I think the last day of the season, or pretty close to it. The Orioles had a couple of weeks. They clinched in mid-September. So the mental pressure was off Baltimore. And you didn't have to play your starters every day. Not every error is crucial. Not every game is crucial. The LA team really came into that World Series spent. However, you're professionals. You have to do your job. It was not an overpowering offense that Baltimore displayed. Batting average for the team, 200. Batting average for the Dodgers, if I have my baseball reference research skills correct, 142. The scores of the games, 5-2, 6-0, 1-0, and 1-0. The hero of game 1 was Mo Drabowski. And Laura and her sister Beth will tell you, and I think if Mo were here, he would tell us he was not a Hall of Fame pitcher, but he sure had a Hall of Fame day. Here's what happened. The Orioles go up 3-0 in the first inning. Everything's looking great for Baltimore. Frank Robinson hits a 2-run homer. Brooks Robinson hits a solo homer. This is very important for Mr. Robinson the first because he was basically thrown overboard by Cincinnati. In not so many words, the Cincinnati executives in charge said he was too old. And Frank Robinson has a fantastic year with the Orioles. The Orioles score in the second inning, an RBI single by Russ Snyder. They're up 4-0. However, the Dodgers get a run in the bottom of the second. Jim Lefevre hits a solo homer to lead off, and I'll talk about Jim Lefevre and some TV trivia in a few minutes. In the bottom of the third, Dave McNally loads the bases. 3 walks. Now, you're up 4-1. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but Hank Bauer is the manager of the Orioles, and he got a little concerned, to say the least. So he calls in Mr. Drabowski. Now, Mo was known as a prankster, but a friendly prankster. He would put goldfish in the opposing team's water cooler. He was a great clubhouse guy. He was a journeyman. Before coming to the Orioles, he had played for the Cubs, Braves, Reds, and Athletics. They changed him from a starting pitcher into a relief pitcher. So Hank Bauer calls him in from the bullpen, and Mo, as the baseball card says in 1967, Mo mows them down. He notches 11 strikeouts, a World Series record for a relief pitcher. 6 2/3 innings in game 1. He later plays for the Royals, the Cardinals, and the White Sox. Now, there's a how do I say this without breaking down? There's a sad corollary to this story, and Laura knows where I'm going with this, and she and her family generously open up their hearts to me and let me tell this story. So let me preface this part by saying, if you believe in angels and you believe in a higher force and you believe in the supernatural, then what I'm going to tell you will come as no surprise. If you don't, I'm hoping maybe it nudges you a little bit. So this World Series game happens on October 5th. 7 years to the date before, in 1959, Mo and his wife lost their 2-month-old daughter, Deborah, to a fatal disease. 2 months old. And they couldn't take a picture with a flash. They were afraid it would hurt her eyes. There's a picture of them in the book that the family graciously allowed me to use. And I actually dedicate the book to my mom and to Deborah. Now, it's an unbelievable story. It was so unbelievable that when I presented on 1966 and Mo Drabowski at the SABR convention in Baltimore, I actually titled the story Angel on His Shoulder. I really believe that Deborah was with him that day, that the fates intervened, that Hank Bauer was, influenced somehow to call in a reliever from the bullpen. And I mean, the headlines are if you could go on newspapers.com, the headlines are just full of Orioles joy, and the pictures with Mo in the clubhouse, everybody's beaming. One interesting corollary to this World Series, LA and Baltimore were relatively new teams. LA had only been a major league city since 1958. And Baltimore had only been one since 1954 when the St. Louis Browns moved. So it's still pretty exciting for both squads to get to this pinnacle, to get to the World Series. And the LA squad obviously was a national team. A lot of that was because of television. Leo DeRocher recruiting Herman Munster, Leo DeRocher recruiting Jethro on the Beverly Hillbillies, etc. I mentioned Jim Lefevre. He hit a solo home run to lead off the bottom of the second and in game 1. And the TV trivia here is another Brady Bunch reference. You may remember there is an episode where Bobby Brady has dreams where he is a champion in several sports. Well, one of them is Bobby hitting a home run. The footage they use is Lefevre's home run from the 66 series. So if you ever get the chance to use that, to see that episode, you can match it up with the footage of Lefevre. With that, I will graciously answer any questions that you have to the best of my ability. And maybe Laura can chime in with some answers about her dad if you have any questions.
Can I just say thank
Yeah.
you to you?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for just your heart in the book and especially with my dad's story. And it's just beautiful to see these, how many years later he's still relevant.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it's for people like you. So
Oh, thank you.
it was a
And
nice
I
surprise.
should mention that there's a poem in the book at the end. If you have the book and you get to chapter 12, that's the last chapter. Don't end the book with chapter 12. Keep going. There's a poem, and I had to persuade my editor to put it in. She didn't want to put it in the narrative. I said, I absolutely agree. It doesn't belong in the narrative. It belongs on its own. It belongs at the very end. This is a special thing. I don't want to interrupt the flow of the book. This belongs on its own at the very end. You can call it an appendix, you can call it an addendum, you could call it whatever you want, but I don't want it as part of the story. It's something separate. And it's a poem I delivered, and I I don't really deliver it too much because I break down towards the end. So uh, that's why you're not hearing it tonight.
Well,
David, what would you say the biggest difference is between 62 and 66?
Oh my God. The whole culture was changing. The entire culture was changing. Hair was getting longer. You started to sense a little bit of the counterculture in 66, things like psychedelic lettering in ads and newspapers, things like that. But the counterculture didn't really take hold till 67, and certainly by 68. Louis the Lilac was a villain played by Milton Berle, and who were his henchmen? The Flower Children. That was a villain on Batman. So this was like the last year before everything really started to shift. And then, of course, by the early 70s, TV got rid of all the rural programs like Mayberry RFD and Green Acres, and you had MASH and All in the Family, etc. The music was, I think the music was pretty much the same. The Beach Boys were pretty popular, but you started to see things go a little crazy with the superhero craze. I don't think you had ever seen anything like that before. And it was very short-lived. I mean, by 67, it had started to wane, and 68, Batman was gone. 68, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was gone. I Spy was gone. So these trends, these fads have a very brief shelf life. But you get as much as you can from them. And when you say to people, oh, I'm writing about 66, I'm writing about the spy genre, I Spy was my favorite show. Wild Wild West was my favorite show. I always watched The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I loved The Man from U.N.C.L.E. We didn't even talk about Star Trek or The Monkees. Those were just terrific shows, but they're icons. And remember, again, The Monkees only lasted 2 seasons. Star Trek was 3 seasons. And Star Trek, by the way, only got on the air because of one woman named Lucille Ball. She produced Star Trek, at least the first season. So Lucy was impactful not just on screen, but also off screen. If you're asking a question, you're going to need to unmute yourself. Because I see a lot of red microphones. You got something?
No, it's somebody in here.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Named Bob Durrell.
Hey, Bob.
In 2014,
Yes.
you had an unusual situation take place here in Houston. You recall what you did?
Yeah, I threw out the first pitch,
Yes, indeed.
and you were my chaperone.
A very interesting thing. We had a silent auction.
Yep.
One of the prizes was to throw out the first pitch. You cannot believe how many people wanted to throw out the first pitch. And David was one of them, and I remember the bidding kept going up and up and up. I won't tell the number, but it was a pretty significant number. And then David said, I better learn how to throw the baseball. So he and Mike Krosky got a baseball and started throwing it inside the hotel. So that David could feel fairly comfortable going out on the field.
I think we then got forced out to the parking lot.
Couldn't well be. Well, I remember I took David down to the field to throw out that first pitch. We were talking, he said, the one thing I do not want to do is bounce the baseball.
Yeah, and I did bounce, and I bounced it.
I said, you don't have to go to the mound, you're inside. Closer 40 feet instead of 60 feet.
Right.
But he had the best time after he had thrown the pitch. Everybody, he was so excited. And he asked me, he says, can I do this again? Well, we didn't have access.
Oh, if there's another silent auction for a first pitch at a SABR convention, I'm there. I'm totally there. But I have a question. What's that?
You did throw a strike, it just bounced over the plate.
I just bounced it, but I still have the autograph of the player who caught it. But I have a question for Laura. Laura, did your dad go on a goodwill tour with Stan Musial? Did he go to Poland, or was it
Mhm.
just Poland, or was it Europe?
I believe it was just Poland.
Okay.
That was in, I think, 1986.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And so they went there and were trying to, I guess, start baseball, start up some sort of a league. I don't really think much happened as a result, but I remember he was really excited, and I think just to share his love for the game with people.
Right.
More important, he was never in it for the fame or the money. And I don't,
Right.
in today's world, that's a whole different ball game. But he really loved the game. I mean, he truly loved it, and was a team player. And I remember, I think it was with Kansas City when they wanted to give him a raise, and he said no, not unless the whole team gets a raise,
Right.
because he said this is a team sport. I can't even so there's some things about my dad's kindness. He's a very kind heart. So I think that was part of his intention with Poland, was
Right.
to share the love of the game and laughter.
When I found Mo's story, I reached out to Laura's brother-in-law on Facebook. I wasn't sure that it was the right person, but he called me back and he said, you have the right person. You want to speak to my wife. And, Beth was so open with this, and then brought Laura on board and gave me information that's both in the book and not in the book, but just as background. And there's no way I could have done it without the family, and I wouldn't have researched any further if they didn't want me to. So they were just so open and provided the picture of their parents with Deborah. And I said, well, I'm getting this in the book. I don't care about DPI, dots per inch. I don't care about quality. This is going in no matter what. And we got it in.
It was so special. And that was the only picture
Yeah.
that we had, because my mom was very concerned back in the day. I mean, she was way ahead of her time with, hazards in the world, with
Right.
flashes on the eyes, and, filter water and organic foods and all that. So she was very concerned about health. And so she only had that one picture.
Well, I think that for me, what was educational about this process is, there were some things I knew about 66. There were so many things I didn't know. I didn't know Marvin Miller came on board with the union. I didn't know about Mo Drabowski's performance in game one. I had only known about the sweep. I didn't know the specifics. I didn't know about the Dodgers clinching towards the end of the season, and they were really battling it out with the Pirates and the Giants. So it was an education for me to go back in time and almost like time travel. And as we get further and further away from that time period, we get less and less people who were around who can give personal interviews, who can remember that year. Things that used to be no-brainers, writing about the 27 Yankees. Well, there's no one around who remembers the 27 Yankees. There are few people around who remember the 49 Yankees. So it's important for us as researchers to chronicle these stories, but not just about what goes on in the clubhouse or on the baseball field, but also the personal story like Mo's family, the creation of shows, the Jackie Suzanne's story. She died young. Her story about going down to the warehouse and finding out where the trucks are going to deliver her book, making sure that her books are displayed correctly, displayed prominently, making friends with the guys on the front line who are delivering your book to the places where people are going to buy them. Authors didn't do that. So things like that, I think, are just terribly important. And when people ask me what the biggest challenge is in writing, it's like, well, anyone could go to a box score. Anyone could go to newspapers.com and get the Baltimore Sun's account of the game. But you have to go 10 steps further and get the humanity. You have to get the human aspect. What else was going on? Hank Bauer was a war hero. There's a lot in the book that if I wrote the book I wanted to write, it would be 700 pages because it had to be cut down considerably. I could have done 100 pages on Caesar's Palace, but I only had a limited amount of pages. I could have done 100 pages on the World Series, 50 pages on Batman easily, but you have to pick your spots. And unfortunately, we're in a situation now where paper costs are rising. So you may see across the board, books are smaller than they were even 3 or 4 years ago. And that's not a function of the author doing less research. That's a function of the editor cutting it down considerably to keep the cost under control.
I got a question, and
Yeah.
maybe you address this or not. Why the title "Do You Believe in Magic"?
That was a popular song in '66, and I thought it was just a magical year because of everything that was going on in the culture, things we just talked about. The Orioles winning, the Orioles sweeping the Dodgers. The Dodgers really fell after '66. They didn't get back to the World Series till '69. Not '69. The Orioles got there in '69. They were in the World Series 3 years, 69, 70, 71. They win in 70. The Dodgers didn't get back until 74. So they're losing some really significant players, and they had been a 20-year dynasty ever since Jackie Robinson.
Okay.
I have a question about
Game one, did Koufax pitch game one, Dodgers, or was he like used late in the season?
I don't know if he pitched or Drysdale pitched offhand. Yeah.
Frank Howard Homer, 2-1.
This
That's
is
so made an error.
I believe it was Drysdale, and the reason why is because it was a religious day for Koufax.
No, that was 65.
Was it 65?
Yeah,
But he was,
Drysdale pitched.
yeah, Drysdale did pitch game one.
No, the story about 65 is Koufax, I believe he went to the ballpark, but he didn't play because it was Yom Kippur and the Day of Atonement for Jewish people. It's an extraordinarily important holiday. So Drysdale pitches, and Drysdale gets knocked around by Minnesota, and Walter Alston comes to the mound, and the story, maybe it's apocryphal, but Drysdale allegedly said to Walter Alston, "Well, Skip, I bet you wish I was Jewish too." One of the rare times Drysdale, got pounded, but it happens. it happens. He had that great year in 68, 58 and 2/3 scoreless innings. By mid 69, he's done, and then, has a great career as a broadcaster.
I think you have a question in the chat, David.
I can't see the chat.
Okay.
Let me see. Oh, any Frank Robbins fighting? No, I'd heard about segregation not only with Frank Robinson, but I've read a couple of biographies of Hank Aaron. He experienced that in Milwaukee. People didn't want to sell to him because of his color. But Frank Robinson, I know for a fact, was accepted by Baltimore, which technically is in a southern state. Maryland is technically a southern state, but he was accepted as a hero. I mean, he means as much to Cincinnati fans as he does to Baltimore fans. He's an icon, and I don't think that will ever change. Did someone new come to the chat?
Herb, you got a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about Jim Palmer. He was,
I
What do you
believe he was
rookie?
I believe he was a rookie.
and he pitched against Sue, I think. It did really
Yeah,
well.
I think he pitched against Koufax and
Right.
Palmer. I love Palmer because he's one of those players like Koufax and Drysdale who stayed with one team for his entire career. And in the era of free agency, in the 70s, it's tough to imagine him not going somewhere else, or George Brett, who I think was always with the Royals. But God bless him, he stayed with Baltimore. He's another beloved figure with Marylanders, and I know for a fact because I went to the University of Maryland, and half my fraternity house was from Pikesville. So they revered these guys.
Question,
Sure.
what year did Jim Palmer become an underwear model?
That I don't know. But I'm sure he got paid a pretty penny for it.
So baseball first. They came back too. After that. Before this time, let's do it again. Yeah. But not so. Well, I don't know, man. Oh, sure, they did that. Sure, she doesn't regard it.
If anybody has any questions, you need to open your mic because I won't be able to hear it unless you unmute.
Okay. Anyone else? Maxwell, you usually have a lot of questions.
Max usually has some questions. Are you there, Max?
I'm here.
You have a question, Max?
He just muted himself.
I guess not.
He just rebelled. Oh, there so I thought he was rebelling. Well, I'll say this to wrap it up. If people ask what the purpose of the book is, and basically with 1962 and 1966, if you were going in a time machine back to that year to 66, I would give you the book to read as a primer. It gives you a slice of life. It gives you a taste of what was going on in the culture. I didn't get into politics a lot. There's some talk about Vietnam at the end of the book. I couldn't go into a lot of detail just because of the constraints of the word count, etc. But it gives you a nice feeling of what was going on. And like I said, groundbreaking, progress, innovation, Caesar's Palace debuting, Star Trek premiering, Mission Impossible, which I didn't mention in the spy genre. Mission Impossible premieres in 66. A terrific example of Hollywood capitalizing on the espionage genre. So you have all these things coming into play, and I think it was a real it was just a really important year, somewhat overlooked, which is why I wrote about it. And the beginning of a mini dynasty for Baltimore. As I say, they got to the World Series in 69, 70, and 71. I believe in 67, they had a lot of injuries, and that really hurt them.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, you didn't mention Frank Robinson winning the Triple Crown.
Right, the Triple Crown, and he hit a ball out of the stadium.
All right. That was his first year in Baltimore, or that was?
First. Well, that's why it was so important. And not only did he go to a different team, he was in a different league. He hadn't seen these pitchers before. Imagine what he could have done if he went to the Phillies or the Mets. This is unfamiliar territory, but he's still destroyed. And Baltimore had great teams. Brooks Robinson, Boog Powell, later on, Jim Palmer, McNally.
Boy, are that's true. Yep, that's good. And yes. Very good.
All right, David. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Laura, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, let's say goodbye. Oh, it was saying goodbye. Roll in. All right. So, what are you working on now?
I'm working on 2 books coming out in the spring, a biography of Bo Belinsky and a book about 1978. So they will both be available in April.
Both in April.
Mhm.
And I need to get to writing. Got to catch up with you. Wow. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care. All right, everybody. Kobe, it is trivia time. All right. Okay, we're gonna have trivia. We didn't get to it last month because the meeting ran pretty long. So I figured after David's talk, we'd go right into this trivia. So
Are you gonna recap our Saturday first?
oh, you know what? I do apologize, Kobe. You got a second? Here I am going again. On Saturday.
Well, I'm here.
Thanks, Mike. Mike is keeping me honest. You're right. On Saturday, a bunch of us went out to George Ranch out in Richmond and played some vintage baseball. And we would like to share some of those pictures with you. The results for the Houston Babies didn't exactly turn out to be what we were hoping. But what we found out is, you know what? We need some more players. We really need some more players. So,
I don't think anybody that was out there did not have a good time.
oh, we all had a great time. We had some kids playing. 11-year-old, I think that was the youngest person. Xavier, I think he was the youngest kid, 11.
You model my head.
Right? And then we had our own version of a blind Tom, Mike McCroskey. He even has the hat. So Mike, if you'd like to come up here and show everybody your penguin looking hat. I think David's got it. But here are some pictures from the event on Saturday. So there's that. Here's some video too. You're us deciding who's gonna bat first, right?
Yep.
So, there we go.
Was Brian Elliott, he brought his daughter.
Brian Alcott?
Alcott, yes.
Right, and there's
Xavier.
there's Chewy, the number 11.
He was good.
And there was another young kid on the Red Sox. Oh, they tore us up. So,
And
it's
if you look closely at that, you can see the ball behind Petty's bat.
yes.
It's all good, I gotta have one.
But the reason, there's a reason we're showing you all these pictures here in a second. There's Kobe. There's some big old chunky
got a
big
good
back
stroke.
looking at. Never mind, look how tired I am.
No meeting?
Snow lady, vintage baseball.
I said because you're retired.
Oh, that too.
You I got good.
It's, well, you know, I got a lot of practice with my grandson. I mean, there are all of us here, the Red Sox and the babies. Oh, she's the sexiest woman alive there. Chewy again.
Fielder, yeah.
Chewy, our best fielder. Anyway, I talked to Mike McCroskey earlier today, Mike,
Yes, you did.
and he was saying that we'd like to have another event with the Red Sox and possibly have another event in the spring.
That was the talk of the field.
It was the talk of the field. So again, any of y'all interested in playing ball, please come out and join us. We've had a couple people say, yeah, they'd like to do it again.
Yes, we
So-
have to finance it ourselves. There'd probably be a $5 charge.
Oh, the spring one, we'd have to finance
They'll
ourselves.
rent a field and buy.
Yeah, yeah. We'd have to rent a field and buy some hot dogs, but as Mike said, the hot dogs are what, 6 for 99 cents now, so we can probably handle that.
So about it, yeah.
Buy a can of chili for 40 cents or.
And we're ready.
Anyway, so we had a good time. Again, I don't want to tell you the score because it really wasn't what we were hoping. I think we had about 100 errors. That's all I'm gonna say. Or at least I did.
Fortunately, we didn't have a scoreboard.
Yeah, fortunately, we didn't have a score.
We need to get that in the budget.
Right. So anyway, so that's it.
I got a couple comments.
Uh-oh, Bob Durrell has a couple of comments.
So he called me out of retirement to help manage the team, and we played 12 innings, and I did a heck of a job for 10. We had problems. One of the problems was we started too late, guys. We got to be practical to advertise this thing. This is the brochure that talked about all the activities that are available. I mean, they're just activity after activity, but you know what's not listed?
You guys.
Vintage baseball. They didn't show vintage baseball nor our ground. Now, in the past, we've had some terrific advertising. We've had the Chronicle wrote us up with pictures. You've got my picture in there. And I'm just, Patrick, we gotta do something better, get, the folks to tell them. Because one of the reasons people didn't go up to see it is we thought, the way to do that. So.
Well, we lost the minstrel show too.
Well, that's an issue too, but we actually gained 4 new players. We had 4 players who weren't able to make it. So we did come up with 9 players. It was fun. We had a really good time.
It was a beautiful day for November.
And they fed us.
What's that?
They fed us.
Yes, they fed us.
What they feed?
Sandwich and chip.
Chuck wagon.
Wow.
But it was a good time. So we will definitely do it again next November, but hopefully we'll have a spring game in between. Maybe we can work something out. So, all right. Thank you to all who participated. Thank you to everybody who shared pictures.
Anyone here interested in a spring game?
Any of y'all interested? Yeah, we had a couple people
Sure.
already. Any of y'all interested in a spring game? My body should be healed by then.
And we had a couple of guys, what we were talking about at the last meeting, and some guy said, well, I'm really not any good. Horse feathers. We had some guys who were real good who said they were no good. So, yeah, I'm looking at you.
Kobe,
Yeah,
you.
so it's open folks from 8 to 80.
Yes, 8 to 80. That's right. Okay. Now it's time for the trivia. Kobe?
Let me pass this out. So this was from October 9, you can mine. We'll take one, pass it down for me.
One down, pass it
Here's
down.
a bunch of them too.
I guess you nine eight.
Take one, pass it down. Thank you.
I have a gift for the winner.
My guys forget to sign. I don't get your help.
Okay.
Let's help. So, I don't. You get the answer.
Oh, okay, so you want me to,
There you go, Bob. I'm at the road. Good luck.
okay, so you want me to read the question?
There's only one question.
Oh, there's only one question.
Do any answers?
Oh,
Let's do it.
Oh, I'm sure it's all.
Here we go. There's the question. And you're the way.
that is the question.
Slap it down. Check it
In light of the recent presidential election, who had the most home runs during each presidential administration?
Oh, that's very good.
Going all the way back to Ulysses S. Grant.
You're the president, you'll get that.
All the way, yes. Kobe said he'd be impressed if he had done. Who had the most home runs during each presidential administration? Good luck with all that.
This is the 4 years together.
I think I know the Chester A. Arthur one, not Chester, I don't.
Probably for 4 years, like.
Yeah, during those 4 years.
Well, actually, there's more.
Well, no, Obama's eight, Obama's eight.
Some years. Yeah.
Right, so during each presidential administration. So, you know, like Warren Harding is only 2 years. Because of the teapot dome.
No, it's because of the black.
Oh, I never answered that.
That too.
And a copy of there is 2 different ones for Grover Cleveland for his 2 separate terms. We'll see that.
Wow, 1, 2, 3,
It is 29.
29.
29.
It's the. Well.
Interesting.
No, you know.
Give y'all about what, 5, 10 minutes?
This crew, 6 minutes.
John, you already got the answers already, right? You done? You got them all
I
already?
told Kobe, he's in charge of winning, and here he's got a contest. Gotta figure out how to lose this. Well, this is an animated team event, you know.
Well, this is a record-setting trivia contest. We'll never have another one with fewer questions.
No, that's right. Yes, this is the record, I think.
You've gone as low as you can go.
I would actually, whether it's such a season, I learned revised. She doesn't,
It's, you know, doing a lot of strange stuff.
Yeah.
The 4 years. We did, well, what else I did do?
combining all four culture.
Yes.
So I just thought, but remember it, yeah. It's a good local church, but that's swallow that in chills. It's so. That's first. I go down here and raise this. We're gonna be out there and saying, no, it's. I have a bunch of pages showing this. Sort of. Yeah. He's great, but he's great. Go on. I don't think, I don't remember the change. There's a sense. I recall. You may have. Yes, yeah.
Does he have them working backwards? Or start at Grant?
It starts at Biden, goes down.
No, it's
Easy to hard.
Yeah, walking around this as it is, yes.
All right, is everybody ready?
No. Yeah, good.
This may have been a tough one for old Tom White too, because this is not quite in our usual wheelhouse of trivia questions.
No, no.
I'm getting windy. He would do well. He was good on the heritage. Really? Honest. Oh, that's. What around? What? Yep. Yeah.
Extra A Arthur. No, if you really think about it, some of these are kind of easy. If you think about it.
So they got clockwise, probably.
Problem is, you get a player who's straddled at president.
What's that?
If you get a player who's straddled at president, he may have a lot total, but within that year span, somebody may have just spent a flash in the pan and got it. But it's an interesting thought, think about, put yourself back, like, almost fits with the story today with 66, put you back in that mindset of what was going on in the 70s, the 50s, who was playing and.
Yeah.
How long they were trying to.
Yeah.
So that's the fact. No, license. Sauce. No, I prefer, I guess 1890s, because that's here very often, yes, huh?
Jake could just not take office till March, so even if they only lasted a couple months, they were still in the baseball season.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, like Garfield, when he was there
Yeah,
for 1 year.
that's right.
Whereas you get a guy nowadays that get in and they're only there for a couple months, baseball season would have started, so.
We're sharing, see if they're ready to remember. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm just trying to think over to survive. With our models, those are really good. You know, something like anything, I think this is.
You done yet, Don?
Just this will. Yeah, I've got. Right.
We ready? Looks like these are the,
Yeah. It's. Child, less. Okay, well, this is. I ain't got Garfield yet.
wait a minute, are you, you want me to give you another minute, Mike?
It's gonna be 10 minutes since I've started this presentation.
It's 10 minutes.
So you get 10 minutes, that's a record.
That's kind of a record.
A one question trivia, it takes 10 minutes, you guys.
All right, here we go. Joe Biden. Who hit the most home runs during the Joe Biden administration? Huh? No. Aaron Judge. Donald Trump. Mike Trout. Barack Obama. Albert Pujols. GW.
Slow down.
It's right here. It's right here.
We gotta. Let's correct them. And we gotta.
Sorry, I apologize. All right. G.W. Bush. A-Rod.
I don't talk long.
You see what I did there?
Yeah.
So here.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Ken Griffey Jr.
I had him for Bush.
George Herbert Walker Bush.
Crime dog.
Crime Dog. Red McGriff. Reagan, Carter, and Ford are all the same guy. Michael Jackson Smith. Is that his middle name? Jackson? Michael Jack Smith? Michael Jackson Smith?
Wow.
Richard Nixon. The great number 44, Henry Aaron.
That's.
LBJ. Willie Mae. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Army Killebrew.
Nice. I find out.
Ike. Eddie Matthews. Harry S. Truman. Ralph Kiner. Are y'all surprised by FDR?
It's not choice. What was it?
Jimmy Fox.
No, I got that.
We're talking 12 years here.
Good. Wow.
Hoover, Coolidge, and Harding are all the same guy. The Bambino?
Thank you.
Now you're getting into the ones that have heard of.
Yeah, now you're gonna have to help me with some of these names. Woodrow Wilson. Gabby Kravitz, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, they grab it, yeah.
Gabby Kravitz, William Howard Taft, Frank Schulte.
Yeah, he was MVP on that.
You know, his autograph.
We have had a member, Gary Schulte, his widow is still a member of.
Yes, yes, you can. Teddy Roosevelt, Harry Davis,
King Kelly.
William McKinley, Buck Freeman, Grover Cleveland, second term, Sam Thompson, Benjamin Harrison, Harry Stovey, Zach. And Grover Cleveland, did anybody get this? Two of them. Dan Brothers and Roger Connor. So this is two right here?
Yes,
That's what this told me.
29, okay.
they hit 39.
Chester A. Arthur, Ned Williamson,
Yeah.
James A. Garfield, Dan Brothers again, Rutherford B. Hayes, Charlie Jones, Ulysses S. Grant, George Hall. Anybody get this?
No, I enjoyed it, right, I got half of it.
Look at
That was
George
almost
Hall,
one
he had
home
what,
run
8
per
years
year.
and 5 home runs, and brothers said, how short time Garfield was, and he had 8.
Baseball.
How baseball changed in those 15 years.
Yeah, that was, look, that was interesting, look.
Frank Schultz.
James Garfield, 8 home runs, 1 year. Ulysses S. Grant, 5 home runs, 8 years. That's pretty wild. William Howard Taft was who?
James Garfield lived about 2 months.
That's the name.
That's it. Saw him live as president.
Okay,
What's the answer to that?
Marcia, you got all of them right.
I want to write it down.
Marcia knows her history. Want me to?
Mike requested the answers for a few more minutes. You can just give him the paper.
Mike, here's the picture.
Okay, I don't know.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm happy.
All right. Cal, how many did you get?
That was muted.
Cal's muted, okay. What are we gonna start with? 20?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Start with 8. like
John, you
that,
got
so-
25?
Start with 3.
How about 10?
Start with 3.
3?
Yes.
Babe Ruth was 3.
That's right.
Okay, so nobody got 10?
Start
Wow.
with 3.
How about 5? Okay, Herb got 6.
He's Dan Brothers.
Wait, hold on a second, hold on. We got an 8? Two 8s?
And 7.
What did y'all get? Anybody get more than 8 on the phone call? On the Zoom? Anybody get more than 8? No?
I got
Oh,
4. Does that count for anything?
You got 4? That's half an 8.
I know.
Where's
And
Canadian, so he gets, that's worth 3.
it's really, Joe, it's really a quarter of 8 because 3 of them were Mike Schmidt.
You're the reason I wanted him to start with 3, Maxwell.
Wait a minute, hold on, Maxwell. You got 3 Mike Schmidt, but you missed Babe Ruth?
Yeah.
All right, I was just, all right.
I fell asleep by the time I got to that part.
Okay, so we have a tie. 2 8s, right? Anybody have a 9?
Who got the top? Who got the 8? Ah,
So we have a tie-breaking question. Anybody have a tiebreaker question?
Who threw the only opening day no hitter?
That's a good question.
Say that again?
Who threw the only opening day no hitter?
This is between Herb and Robert.
and Bob and I just gave him the answer.
Only opening day no hitter.
Well, doing what it not long ago. No, yeah, I mean, historically. Yeah, right. Well,
Neither one of you heard? Y'all don't have an idea? Who had the most home runs in 1966? Let me look that up.
Frank Robbins.
Roger.
Thompson.
Yeah, he had the most in the American League for sure.
Most home runs in 1966.
So Frank Robbins 49.
Well, I'm asking.
I think Frank Robbins.
It's a tiebreaker.
I'm trying to get the tiebreaker, John. Of course, I gotta look this up.
If 8 teams finish first place in SEC football, who goes to the championship game?
Texas A&M.
That's not a baseball question.
It's a sports question.
Yeah, but.
I know everything about baseball.
Coming on 30th.
I want somebody to figure it out for me.
Any guess?
Bob Feller, it's not Frank Robinson, I'd say Willie Mays, that would have been my guess. Frank Robinson, if he wants to go Willie Mays.
I have a
Or is
66
it neither?
question.
It was Frank Robinson.
1966, how many years did the Astrodome been open?
That's the second, that would be.
I got a basketball trivia question.
The title.
Well, they're both tied on that one too. So
Yeah,
a basketball what?
I got a good basketball trivia question. Who's the only player that played with Larry Bird and Bill Russell on the Boston Celtics?
Is that just a general trivia?
I tell you, I'll give you a hint. He's got a Houston connection.
Don Shea.
You ought to get it. You ought to get it fast.
Don Cheney.
Sonny baseball.
Okay, how about this?
Don Cheney.
What's that?
Well, who got the 49?
Well, hold on. Both of them did. What? How about this? What team won the most games in 1966? National or American League? What team won the most games in 1966? Okay, what team won the most games in 1966? Either one of y'all want to guess? What team?
Orioles.
Congratulations. The Orioles, 97, the Dodgers, 95. So we have a winner. Robert,
So.
hold on, be right.
Sweet.
All right.
So let's all the other one, it was nice. I mean,
Congratulations. Also, you get the right trivia contest for December.
For December.
Yes, next month.
Speaking of books, Joe, did you tell everybody we had fun?
Everybody, we have another box of Cal's collection here. Some more books. Fred dropped off some Hall of Fame magazines for the Baseball Hall of Fame, Memories and Dreams. Please take this stuff, otherwise it's going to end up in my office where I don't have any room. Or I got to take it home. Then I'll tell them that. I'll tell my wife that you said I had to take it home. I'll sell it to you. Yes.
I was thinking there was someone that did it.
What's that?
I was just pointing it out.
Oh, yeah. Or otherwise, we could all donate this to U of H.
Make it face.
You know, so we can talk about that later. Shut up. Anyway, thank you all. It was a great meeting. The next meeting is December the 16th. December the 16th, we will have our presentation of our umpiring in Cooperstown, right, Jimmy?
Correct.
All right, December the 16th. See y'all then. Have a great month. Happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much. All right, talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.